So if you follow the NBA, you will know that the Lakers have got a great team right now where they brought Luka Doncic in this trade for Anthony Davis, who went to the Dallas Mavericks, and they paired Luka Doncic, who's a generational player, a generational talent. They paired him with LeBron James, who is still a boss on the field and one of the greatest players of all time. Now, maybe you ask yourself if you can, I know I ask myself if I can apply to astrology to see if this pairing is going to work out and how good they're going to be together, how well it's going to work out. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to look at the astrology, not just of LeBron and Luka, but we're going to compare to previous pairings that LeBron James had with key players in his career in order to understand how good Luka and LeBron can be. Let's go. Okay, so if you're asking yourself, is this team going to win a championship? Is this team going to win the next game? Whether that's in basketball or whatever, football, soccer, baseball, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's boxing, any athletic competition, the Olympics, right? There is a whole field of astrology that deals with this as well, right? There is a field of sports astrology. And most of the time, the sports astrologers, they use something called orrery astrology, where they just cast specific questions for a moment. It's like an omen, basically. They're going to look at how are the omens for this moment. This actually goes back to really, really long, has an old history. Yeah, the Romans were doing this already, right? You can go back all the way to the Romans and probably before. The Romans were doing this probably for gladiators and the games that they had in the Colosseums back then, right? But be that as it may, what I'm interested in is not the orrery astrology so much because I don't bet, right? I'm not interested in it from a sports betting perspective, but rather what I'm interested in is the human development perspective, the personal development perspective. So I'm looking at it from the lens of relationship and group astrology, and that tells you a lot about how people are going to relate with each other. So when they're put together a team and they bring together two superstars like Luka Doncic and LeBron James, one huge question is, what's going to be the chemistry between them? In any sport, you always have this question. The chemistry was, or always is this issue, the chemistry was great, the chemistry was not good, right? It's always a topic and a top of the agenda for a good coach or a good GM to create good chemistry between their players, right? Obviously, there's no better tool for doing that than astrology. The astrology tells you at a glance. You just look at it and you see, okay, they're going to have great chemistry. They're not going to have good chemistry, right? So smart coaches and GMs, they should be using this. They should be using this tool, right? Who knows? Maybe some of them are already, but they can't be very open about this because of the current still existing situation with the paradigms and the consensus that is all these kind of scientific consensus that is owned by certain nerds, and they're protecting that and so on. But now, be that as it may, again, I digress. Let me get to the Lakers. So the Lakers, they brought in Doncic in this historical trade, and really huge, huge trade, huge win for the Lakers, and big L for the Mavericks. The Mavericks, the Mavericks manager, there's like he's getting death threats from the fans and stuff because they're like, how could you send away Luka Doncic? This guy is a historical, talent. He's like a cross between Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. He's slow, but he has like all that weird moves, and nobody can stop him. And he's magic, like he's magical with everything he does, right? And he can shoot as well. So he's insane, right? And they pair him up now with, anyways, they let him go. And now he's in Los Angeles, right? He's in Hollywood. He's now playing with LeBron James. So question is, how good they're going to be together? Are they going to perform well? Are they going to have chemistry? That's what I want to say. That's what I want to answer, right? So we're going to look at the astrology. And the chart that I'm going to show you is the relation between LeBron James and D. Wade, right? That's what interests us first because we're going to go in chronological order with all the great, pairings that he had in his career. And you're going to see here right away, LeBron James's Jupiter is on the sun of D. Wade, right? Exactly, like down to the second, Jupiter on sun, down to the second, right? This is basically the best constellation to have in any business partnership because it basically stands for infinite trust. Jupiter on sun. If somebody puts their Jupiter on your sun, it's like infinite trust, right? You can trust each other blindly. You can just, there's some innate knowing that you're going to be good for each other. They're going to always look out for each other. They're going to be, you can just, you can trust and you can be generous with the other person because they got your back, right? I got your back, you got my back, right? This is that kind of feeling, and it's innate when you have Jupiter on sun. And this is obviously what happened with them, right? They were, D Wade was the man with the Heat, and he stepped back. He let LeBron take the reins, right? He let LeBron be the number one guy, which is not usual for a person who's at the prime, in their prime. He's playing like on an MVP level like D Wade was. He was like one of the best players in the league, one of the best, maybe 3 or 4 players in the league, right? And you can see this in the chart. Really like that they're going to be business partners, that they're going to be friends. They're going to really back each other, big each other up, back each other up. All of that is written in the chart here with this. And then you have Mars trine Mars. You see here Mars trine Mars. And this is very important because this is sports, basketball. We're looking at Mars. Mars is important for basketball, for any athletic endeavor. And Mars trine Mars tells me that their athletic energy is in sync with each other, right? They're not the same, they're different, but they're trine, so they're super in sync with each other. The athletic energy is in sync, and you have the highlight reels with D Wade, alley-oop, to LeBron to D Wade and stuff.
LeBron James, here he comes, hitting ahead for Wade. There he goes. Oh, the house of highlights.
You think these guys like passing the ball to each other? Wow. Earlier was LeBron to D Wade. Wade just gave the compliment back to LeBron.
And that's very typical for this type of energy signature, right? So yeah, I mean, they didn't need an astrologer, but fate and destiny leads you together when it has to. But the astrology confirms it. The astrology confirms it, right? This is what astrology is also good for. So sometimes it's there to guide you to new things, and other times it's just good to confirm what you already know, which is great, right? And then the next one was Kyrie Irving. So LeBron James went back to the Cavs, and he was playing with Kyrie Irving, right? And in this stint, they won a championship, but they lost 3 times in the finals against the Golden State Warriors. Okay, one of the best teams of all time. They lost against the Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson's Warriors, right? But still, there's a little bit of, I'm sure it was very painful for them. Very, very painful. There's nothing, you can't imagine the level of pain for an athlete to go to the finals in the greatest stage and then lose in the finals, right? This is almost what, I think LeBron said it sometimes, this is worse than not even making it to the finals sometimes. Oftentimes, it can be worse than not even making it to the finals, right? And you can see this pain in the chart because there is on the one hand, there is a Venus with Mars conjunction, okay? So there's going to be a lot of fresh, nice, creative energy together. But then you have a lot of Chiron. Chiron is the wound, the wounded, the point of the wound in you. You have Chiron opposite Moon. You see here, Chiron opposite Moon. This is one of the most painful constellations that you can have with anybody. And then Chiron square Pluto, which is extremely painful again. This is like basically there is dark things that have powerful things that happen that bring out a lot of vulnerabilities and pain in us. And this is just, the vulnerabilities, innate and deep-seated vulnerabilities of one are brought out by the experiences that they have together. So you see a lot of Chiron hard aspects to Moon and Pluto, which in a relationship, okay, it could be great because you learn from this. You become wise, right? This is not a bad thing to have in a chart. If it's in your chart with somebody, with a loved one, you can learn from this and grow from this. But it's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of pain. And you see this in their chart. And that's what they had, right? They had a few years of extreme pain. And you can tell. I'm sure you could, you remember J.R. Smith with the walking off in the wrong direction.
Hill misses. Rebound goes to the Cavs. J.R. Smith brings it back out. Throws it to Hill. Hill shot blocked. And we'll go to overtime.
That was a historic moment. But it must be really painful for somebody like LeBron James, who's a perfectionist like that, right? To watch his player to do that in the last seconds in the finals, right? But okay, So that's the second pairing. And now the next one was Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, and this is a pretty powerful synastry. They had a really powerful synastry together. So there's a lot of things going on here. I'm not going to go into all of the personal stuff. Certainly some, there's also the Mars trine Mars again, right? So the energies are really in sync. Great, very good for athletes to have this. And the Mars of Anthony Davis is actually trine the Pluto of LeBron James, and then the moon is in here too, Anthony Davis's moon. It makes a nice grand trine, right? Really nice. So LeBron James has this Mars Pluto trine in his chart, which is basically the indefatigable warrior, right? Mars trine Pluto, in LeBron's chart. The guy never gets tired. The guy never stops. The guy never gets old, right? It's like he's 40 years old. He's still playing like a 20-something-year-old. Like he was never injured, right? Not that I know of. And that's Pluto trine Mars that you can see here in the chart, right? This is basically the warrior who can tap into infinite resources and infinite regeneration. And then Anthony Davis puts his Mars here, right? And his moon, and he plays really well with that, right? That's something that you can't say about Anthony Davis, right? Anthony Davis was always injured. But we're not looking at Anthony Davis's chart, right? This is some different story. We're just looking at the synastry right now, right? So Anthony Davis plays off really well with LeBron James, really, really well. But then there's this Mercury square Mercury. You see here, Mercury square Mercury. They're in a square with each other. Square is like a difficult tension, exact tension between Mercury. So Mercury square Mercury means basically miscommunication. Right? Even though they really like each other, they're good, they vibe with each other, they have like a very good creative energy together, but they're going to miscommunicate. Always miscommunicate. And lo and behold, look in the story, look up the story. Even in the finals, finals that they won, one big story was that they had massive miscommunications on the plays, who's got which play, right? Massive miscommunication in the finals. And it happened often. You could have seen and told, if you look at the chart, Mercury square Mercury. They're always going to kind of, they don't mean to miscommunicate. They just communicate in ways that are not really compatible, right? So that's that. But overall, it wasn't a bad synastry at all, right? And they actually, obviously, they won a championship. And Anthony Davis is always injured. Like otherwise, they would have done much better, right? If he didn't have this karma to deal with. And then you got Luka Doncic, which is now, right? Luka Doncic. So LeBron James with Luka Doncic. And I'm going to bring this up for you. LeBron James with Luka Doncic here. And this synastry is super interesting. It's really interesting because you have, on the one hand, you've got that Mars to Mars, okay? Mars to Mars, exact trine, right? Is it here? And then Luka Doncic puts, he puts his sun on there too, sun with Mars, exactly. This is very good for firing each other up, giving each other a lot of motivation. Right? Firing each other up. This is Sun on Mars. And then there's a trine with Mars, as I just said. There's also a sextile of Sun to Sun, the Sun to Sun, okay? They're in sextile. And there's also a sextile of Moon to Moon here. See, Moon to Moon? Moon to Moon is very good for intuitive, instinctive understanding each other intuitively and instinctively, right? Just being in sync. So the body rhythm, the physical rhythm is in sync. Sun to Sun sextile means there is hardly ever going to be any competitiveness or any ego between them. Zero ego, like one is fine with the other taking the shot. Mars to Mars trine, right? Super in sync. So they're super different. They're completely different. As you can see here, there's nothing conjunct each other. They're completely different. But everything is in trine and in sextile with each other. So it means everything, this person is, Luka is completely different. Luka is, obviously, he has a different tuning and character, right? And LeBron is completely different, but they're in sync. They're harmonious. They're super harmonious with each other. There's hardly any tension in here, right? So this is a really, really good chart. Really, really good chart for sports, for an athletic partnership, right? I really like it. I think I like this better than even all the previous charts, all the other charts. I think this is going to be LeBron's best pairing that he has had so far. And maybe you could make a case for Luka Doncic is also the best player of anybody that LeBron ever played with, right? It's kind of the most, he has the highest ceiling, for sure. The highest ceiling of everybody LeBron ever played with. Luka Doncic has a legitimate shot at kind of, cracking the top 10, top 5 all-time players, right? He's that good. Top 10 maybe of all-time players. That he has a shot at that, right? He's that good. But now that being said, so this is going to be a good pairing. This is going to be a good pairing. How far can they go? Can they go all the way this year? Can they go all the way this year? I had a look at the charts. I'm not going to show you again, not to just have these charts open all the time. But in the finals, Luka will have to take the initial couple of matchups. Luka will have to lead on those. In the playoffs is what I mean. In the playoffs, Luka will have to lead on the first couple of matchups because he has the stronger transits. But if they go all the way to the finals, only if they go to the finals, sort of mid-June-ish, beginning of June, mid-June-ish, LeBron starts to get some really historic time, right? So this only counts if they go to the finals. And until then, LeBron was probably going to be the number 2 in the playoffs, right? But this is my prediction. But if they make it to the finals, LeBron is going to take over the finals. And he's going to put up a historic performance. He has some crazy activations coming mid-June into end of June, right? It's sort of like when the Game 4, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. If they make it that far, I'm not sure they will in any capacity, right? And I'm not betting on this stuff, so I'm not telling you. But if they make it that far, he's going to have his historic final series, right? And that would be obviously very interesting to see what happens if LeBron takes another championship, right? Is he going to edge a bit closer to Michael Jordan in the GOAT conversation, right? That's a whole nother conversation that we should have another time. It's not something I want to get into. But obviously, even from an archetypal perspective, from a symbolic perspective, Michael Jordan is a league of its own, right? Is a league of its own. And LeBron and everybody else has always tried to be like that. But maybe you could make a case for the greatest and the best, the best and the greatest being two different things, right? But again, that's another conversation. I'll leave you with this. This is some interesting insights that we can generate from astrology, and there's so much more as well. Stay tuned for more. Be well, be blessed.